I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't hear. And my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hi guys, I'm trying to jump onto the law and crime feed as quickly as I can. They are talking about the Toyota Tacoma. Just give me a second. Good to see everyone here. We might need to go back about 10 minutes. But,
Based on
let's
the
start over
information
here.
that you had regarding 4 Jefferson Crossing, did you or anyone else from the state police inform Mr. Dulos, the defendant's mother and the daughter, that they would not be allowed back in the home?
I can't recall who related that information specifically, but yes, that was communicated to them, that it was anticipated the search was going to be lengthy, and that they most likely would not be able to spend the night in the home.
So what Sergeant Michael Button, again, hi guys, good to see you. What he's just testified to is that he was at Jefferson Crossing, and a white Jeep Cherokee came driving slowly from the main road towards him. He looked into the vehicle. He recognized who he thought was Fotis Dulos. Inside the vehicle were a lot of paper towels and car seats. And of course, this is Michelle Troconis' vehicle. So let's find out what else he has to say.
Was there a request made for those individuals to be able to pack overnight bags?
Yes, there was.
And who, if anyone, made the decision to allow them to pack overnight bags?
Sergeant Bisson decided to accommodate their request, and they were each individually allowed to go into the house under supervision to pack clothing and hygiene items, things that they would need to spend the night somewhere.
And when you indicated under supervision, who escorted them into the home?
I did.
You mentioned earlier that there was a search warrant for Mr. Dulos and Ms. Troconis. Where were the defendant and Mr. Dulos to be brought that day for that search warrant?
So we were instructed that they were to come to Troop L in Litchfield, which is Western District headquarters, and the Western District Major Crime Van is stationed there. So that's where they made the decision to do that search.
And did you speak with someone named Eugene Riccio that day?
Yes, I did.
Who is Eugene Riccio?
My understanding was Mr. Riccio was the attorney representing Mr. Dulos at the time.
And did Mr. Riccio make any requests of you?
He did.
What requests did he make?
So we wanted to take Mr. Dulos and Mr. Troconis to drive them in our vehicles to Troop L. Mr. Riccio objected to that. He asked if they could drive themselves. So I then asked my supervisor, Sergeant Ventresca, if he was going to be good with that. And he related that was fine. And so that's what ended up happening.
And was it agreed that they would be escorted by police up to Troop L?
Yes.
Were you part of that escort?
No, I was not.
So it's quite interesting that from the start, Fotis and Michelle were sort of part of the investigation. It wasn't like Fotis was part of the investigation and then Michelle was like a booby prize or like someone who came in afterwards. I want to share with you a really useful image from, I'll give you the source in a moment, but here you can see the 9 vehicles, 10 arguably if you include that one, right? The source for this is a guy called Phil Foss. He's on Twitter at TYOTOYS. So he's the source of this. let's just put it in Toytoys. I hope I've got that right. Right? And this just gives you a clear idea of the vehicles. So when we're dealing with Fotis Dulos, there's the Ford Raptor. That's the vehicle that we see dropping the number plate in the garbage bags. The Chevy Suburban was the vehicle that there's a 2015 and a 2017. So anyway, that's another vehicle he owned, distinctive from the 27 Chevy Suburban owned by Jennifer Dulos. I think they used the license plate from this vehicle on some other vehicle. Then there's the Toyota Tacoma, which will be discussed today. The car seats were transferred from, this is actually Jennifer's vehicle, but you saw it all busted up at that one property, were transferred from this vehicle to this vehicle. The road bike apparently was also in this vehicle. Oh, hold on. It's a 2007. Well, so there are 3 Chevy Suburbans. This one is where the license plate came from. And this license plate was used on this vehicle. As far as I know, it was previously owned by Fotis Dulos. I could be wrong on that. And then the Jeep Grand Cherokee, that was part of all of these are 4 group vehicles. And then Jennifer Dulos owned this vehicle. I think that was the vehicle that she was transported in. And then that's the Range Rover that was still in the garage of the crime scene. This vehicle was somewhere else with a smashed-in windscreen. And then that was a rental that Michelle Troconis used. So we'll refer back to this in due course. Thanks again to Full Foss for putting this together. Okay, so let's go back to.
Oh, did you notice that Mr. Dulos had a cellular phone with him?
I did, and I had also noticed that at Fort Jefferson because I used the phone to speak to his attorney. He handed it over to me to speak to Mr. Riccio.
And was a decision made to seize that cellular phone?
Yes, it was.
Why did you seize that phone?
Investigators who were working the case had related to me that they were aware of a second phone number that belonged to him. And that coupled with the fact that when I had interviewed Lauren Almeida in New York City, she said that Fotis had told her that that phone and number were new as of Saturday the 25th. And based on what I was told by the other investigators, they knew that to not be true, that the phone existed prior to that day. And so I called down to my supervisor, related that information to him, and he concurred with seizing the phone. And so that's what I did.
How did Mr. Dulos react when you seized his phone?
I asked Mr. Dulos if I could see the phone. He handed it over to me. I asked him what the passcode was. He provided it. I tried the password code to make sure it worked. It did. And he then asked for the phone back. And I related to him that he wasn't going to receive it back. It was going to be seized as evidence in conjunction with the investigation.
Approximately what time did you seize the phone?
Sometime between 9 and 10 p.m.
So I'm assuming that they seized this phone between 9 and 10 on the 24th of May, which gives you an idea of how long Fotis got away with this, which is not very long. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on the date. I had to step away from what I was watching in order to get up and running on, with you guys. So just something else to point out, during Sergeant Buten's testimony, he was saying how, did I pause it now? He was saying how Fotis was covered in sweat when he saw him in the white Jeep Grand Cherokee. And he said he'd been driving for an hour, and he said it didn't really make any sense that you're driving in an air-conditioned vehicle. Why would you be covered in sweat? It does make you wonder, had he just come from digging? Why would he be covered in sweat? Something just worth bearing in mind.
Familiarize yourself with that, just let us know what it is.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So this is the Apple iPhone that I seized from Mr. Dulos on the evening of May 31st, 2019.
Thanks for assessing. After you seized Mr. Dulos's phone, did he and the defendant leave the Troop L barracks?
Yes. So he did ask to look into the phone to get some phone numbers out of it. Detective Clabby gave him a pen and paper, and I did supervise him while he opened up the phone so that he can get some of his contacts out. I know specifically he wanted his lawyer's number. So we did help him with facilitating that. And then sometime after that, they did leave the barracks, yes.
And did they leave on their own, or were they transported by law enforcement personnel?
No, they left on their own.
I want to direct your attention now to a couple of days later, specifically Sunday, June 2nd, 2019. Were you given any assignments that day in connection with this case?
Yes.
And what assignment were you given?
Detective Fitzsimons and I were instructed to go meet with Mr. Gumienny at his residence to attempt to interview him.
Where did Mr. Gumienny live?
27 Springbrook Lane in the town of Simsbury.
And what type of home is this?
As a single family residence. I'm not sure the square footage.
And did you interview him?
We did.
And as part of that interview, did you end up seizing his cellular phone?
Yes, we did.
And did Mr. Gumienny provide consent for you to seize the cellular phone?
Yes, he did.
And was that after speaking with his lawyer, Lindy Urso, on the telephone?
Yes, it was.
Did you part company with Mr. Gumienny at any point?
After we were completed with our interview and took his phone, yes, we departed his residence.
And did there come a point in time where you returned to the residence?
Yes, there was.
Approximately how long after you left his home did you return to the residence?
I don't recall the specific time, but it was sometime later that day.
Why did you return to the residence?
We were instructed to seize the Jeep Cherokee that was at his residence. Based on information we had gleaned through the interview, it became known to us that it was at 80 Mountain Spring on the day Ms. Dulos disappeared.
When you approached Mr. Gumienny's residence, were you able to see the Cherokee?
Yes,
Where was it parked?
in the driveway of the residence.
And just to be clear, this is the same Cherokee that you had stopped Mr. Gumienny in on May 31st, is that correct?
That is correct.
Were there any other vehicles in the?
Okay, so I may have misunderstood that. So it was Gumienny, I think, driving in the white Jeep Cherokee. He was covered in sweat. I think a possibility for why is if he was removing car seats. That could be one reason for it. But also there were paper towels in that vehicle. It is interesting that Michelle's vehicle, the vehicle that she tended to use, was at Pavel Gumienny's home, isn't it?
The driveway at this time?
Not that I can recall, no.
How was it removed from the driveway?
By a flatbed tow truck.
In speaking with Mr. Gumienny, was any additional evidence seized from him that day?
Yes. He offered to us that he had a work laptop issued to him by Mr. Dulos, and he made a statement to the effect of, if I were going to use a computer to research things, I would use one that didn't belong to me. And at that point, I asked him if we could have the computer, and he complied. He went into his residence and retrieved it and brought it back out to us. And he provided his username and password for the computer.
I want to direct your attention now to 80 Mountain Spring Road. First of all, what is 80 Mountain Spring Road?
My understanding of 80 Mountain Spring Road, it was a large high-end home that was owned by the Ford Group, and that was for sale.
And are there any homes located across the street?
Yes, there are.
What is the address of the home located across the street?
That would be number 77.
At some point, did you respond to 77 Mountain Spring Road in Farmington?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall what date you responded?
I would have to take a peek at my report. I don't recall off the top of my head.
If I could just have a moment, Your Honor.
So we can be quite grateful. Certainly, I'm not sure how many of you watched the first couple of minutes. The audio was pretty awful. There was like a feedback or an echo. It sounded like there was a live mic on someone's desk, and every time they ruffled pages, you heard this crackle, and just talking in the background was really irritating. I was thinking of not doing the live if the audio was going to remain as poor quality as that, but it has improved. There was a very long period of in Lamine, how do you say it, discussions. And what is quite interesting that came out of that was that even the judge said the purpose of those long of the interrogation tapes was to show that Michelle was either not being honest or not telling everything. And I mean, that although that's true, I think it's quite an indictment already. Okay, so let's go back to this.
What date did you respond to 77 Mountain Spring Road?
That was on Tuesday, June 4th, 2019.
And what was your purpose in going there?
I was instructed by my supervisor to respond to that residence as it was made known to them that there was some potential surveillance footage that may have a view of the 80 Mountain Spring Road property.
When you arrived at the residence, was anyone home?
Yes.
Who was home?
Both occupants, so Mr. James Manafort and Mr. Jolien Manafort.
And did you speak with the Manaforts about whether or not they had a home surveillance system?
I did.
And did you have an opportunity to review their home surveillance footage on June 4th?
I did.
How were you able to review it?
So typically what I do when I'm going to pull surveillance footage from somewhere is I want to verify the date and time stamp as it correlates to real time. Oftentimes it's not accurate, and it's important for us to do that. So when we're reviewing everything, we have everything accurately documented. So I asked Mr. Manafort if I could go and see where his live feed was for the camera system, and he took me up to where it was. I looked at it. I used my phone, this is GPS time, and indicated that the date and time stamp on the surveillance footage was fast by 24 hours and 10 minutes.
Were you able to download the footage on that day?
I was not.
Did you make arrangements for the footage to be downloaded?
Yes, I did.
I believe Trooper Sedensky eventually downloaded it.
Yes, she did.
And was there in fact a camera at the Manafort residence which captured 80 Mountain Road?
Yes, there was.
Which camera was that?
I don't recall specifically which camera, but seeing the footage in my memory, it was somewhere over, if you're facing the left side of the house, it would have been somewhere over toward the left side of the house near the front. You had a view of the driveway of 77, so their driveway, and then the street, and then the driveway of 80 Mountain Spring.
And at a certain point during the course of the investigation, directing your attention to, actually, I suppose 5 months later or so, did you have an opportunity to review the surveillance footage?
I did.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you were familiar with the fact that Pavel Gumienny drove a 2001 Toyota Tacoma. Is that correct?
Correct.
Had you seen photographs of the Tacoma during the course of the investigation?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe what the Tacoma looked like for the jury?
It was a 2001 model red pickup truck. Without looking at the photographs now, I can't really point out some of the unique characteristics it had. However, the owner of the vehicle was able to do so. Yeah.
So you had some general familiarity with what the Tacoma looked like. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
I have this marked for identification.
Yes.
So it does look like we're going to start seeing footage of this red Toyota Tacoma. The defense objected to there being just 3 to 5 second clips. He said there are 10-minute videos where you see many red vehicles. So anyway, I suppose we're going to have a Brian Koberger type situation where a vehicle seems to be a particular vehicle, but you can't see the license plate, you can't see who's driving it. And so you're relying to some extent on the timeline to make inferences. Is that fair? The other thing that Schoenhorn argued during the first 45 minutes or so was he was saying something about there's no motive. I thought it was quite interesting how the jury wasn't present. He was just saying that there's no motive in this case because Fotis was actually winning the custody battle at the time that Jennifer disappeared. Now, if you think about it, that to me is not the motive. To me, the motive is that Fotis was in $7 million debt. And the motive was once you divorced, are you going to be able to, once that whole thing is complete, are you going to be able to pay for your lifestyle? Are you going to be able to afford your lifestyle? That to me was the motive. The motive was money, not trying to speed up a divorce. In a way, speed up a divorce, but I think money was central to that. Anyway, let's go back to, hopefully he's not going to be talking for too long.
Yes, ones that you know are just selected from a larger number of clips?
That I don't know.
Does it go from May 23rd?
Again, I have to look at my report and Trooper Sedansky's report. I'm not sure what date ranges were taken. I know it was at least 24 hours. It may have been more than that.
So someone just mentioned, wasn't there a red truck seen in the vicinity of Summer Wells? Yes, I think a red truck also came up in the Chris Watts case, and of course Patrick Frazee drove a red truck as well.
May the 24th. So I would, yeah, no worries. So Detective Clabby and I broke up the footage. He took from midnight on, so the day prior. So there's one indicator that there was more than a day. And then I took midnight on starting on the 24th. So we kind of broke it up to kind of share the load, if you will.
As I understand, you were told or understand that the video time that's embedded is wrong, correct?
I discovered that myself, yes.
Okay, and how did you learn that that was wrong?
Well,
Okay, so while he's doing his thing, I'm just going to quickly talk very briefly about the Murdoch case. I watched Fitz News, I think the editor and the journalist talking about the judge in that case having the opinion that because it was a strong case, that was part of a rationale for denying a retrial, right? And the journalist basically saying that's not relevant or that's a silly argument. I must say, I think you can, maybe different parts of America have a different opinion on this, but I personally feel totally different. If there's a strong, compelling case, then you can imagine the jury are going to be clear on what result they come to. And so that does very much feature into whether you're going to grant a retrial or not. I think if there's a certain amount of uncertainty because the case isn't very certain, then would you do that? Anyway, let's go back to the case. This case.
Sergeant Butin, while that is buffering and getting ready to play, want to just direct your attention to your review of the surveillance footage. Were you looking for a vehicle consistent with Pavel Gumienny's Toyota Tacoma?
yes, I was.
And did you discover on the surveillance footage a vehicle which was consistent with that Toyota Tacoma?
Yes, I did.
And before we play the footage, can you just describe to the jury what you observed?
At approximately 5:35 a.m. on May the 24th, real time. Actually, it might have been. Well, I'd have to look at the video. It's a 24-hour and 10-minute off. So sometime approximately 5:30 in the morning. When I see the video, I'll know the exact time. I observed what was consistent with a red pickup truck departing 80 Mountain Spring Road. It pulls out into the street, makes a left, heading toward what would be Route 4, Farmington Avenue, I believe.
Your Honor, on Exhibit 80, there's two files. I'm going to ask that we play the first file, which is the video clip.
Thank you.
And if you could just orient the jury, where on this video do you observe the red pickup?
So it's coming, it's actually coming out now. You can see it's coming out of the driveway of the property of 80 Mountain Spring. And so based on my observations of the time frame, this is on 5:24 at 5:35 a.m. based on the 24 hours and 10 minutes ahead of what real time is.
Just so the record is clear as to what you just indicated, the video in the upper right-hand portion near the timestamp depicted what appears to be a red pickup truck exiting the driveway at 80 Mountain Spring Road and making a left. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if we can just pull up the second file. Driveway at 80 Mountain Spring Road. The video in the upper right-hand portion.
So it's coming, it's actually coming out now. You can see it's coming out of the driveway of the property of 80 Mountain Spring. And so based on my observations of the time frame, this is on 5:24 at 5:35 a.m. based on the 24 hours and 10 minutes ahead of what real time is.
Just so the record is clear as to what you just indicated, the video in the upper right-hand portion near the timestamp depicted what appears to be a red pickup truck exiting the driveway at 80 Mountain Spring Road and making a left. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if we can just pull up the second file. Detective Butin, do you see this map?
I do.
Could you just orient the jury as to where 80 Mountain Spring Road is on this map and where 77 Mountain Spring Road is?
Yes, sir. So this road here is delineated as Mountain Spring Road. And this is number 77 for residents where we have the surveillance camera. that has a view out toward this direction, where you can see the truck coming into the driveway of the Mountain Spring.
And just so the record is very clear, you indicated that the road, which is to the left in the photograph running.
So do you remember the alibi that the shower gave was early in the morning? Well, this is that time of the morning, maybe a little bit earlier. This vehicle is seen moving around at 5:35 a.m. Who do you think was driving it? Who do you think was driving this vehicle at 5:35 a.m.?
When, if a vehicle is to make a left out of 80 Mountain Spring Road, are there any major highways that road connects with or is approaching?
Several.
Which ones?
I'm familiar with, I believe that road actually comes out to Route 4 in Farmington. You can make your way to I-84, Route 6, depending on which direction of travel. There's a lot of different ways you could end up going from there. But to come off of Mountain Spring Road, I'm almost positive that will just be all onto Farmington Avenue, which is Route 4.
If I could just have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Judge, I have nothing further at this time. I would just ask to return the exhibit to the clerk.
We should probably take our morning recess.
Yes, sir.
And ladies and gentlemen, we will resume at 11:50. Please do not discuss the case.
Okay, can you see once again she's dressed in a very plain Jane kind of beige color. I think it's the third time in a row that we've noticed this. What I'm going to do is take you to the beginning of this guy's testimony. So we're going to go to right here. Now,
Sergeant Butin is still under oath. You may be seated, Sergeant.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We had to take up certain matters while you were out of the courtroom, but we are ready to proceed now. Would counsel stipulate, please?
Yes, Judge. Yes.
Attorney
Judge,
McGinnis.
the state recalls Sergeant Butin.
so I have a question. Does anyone know who this individual is? Does anyone know who this individual is? I guess it could be anyone, but I wonder if it's not Pavel Gumienny, because as far as I know, he is going to be testifying next. So I guess we'll find out.
And Sergeant Butin is still under oath. You may be seated, Sergeant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sergeant Butin, good morning.
Good morning.
Sir, where we left off, you had discovered license plates in Hartford. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
Okay, so I'm going to go fairly slowly through this just because we do need to bridge the break. I just want to deal with what Sasha says. Do you think she's trying to be attractive? Do you think when she comes to trial, do you think she's trying to look attractive? If Nicole Kessinger was in a similar position, what I don't mean exactly similar, I mean simply having to go to court to testify, do you think she would try to look as attractive as possible? In other words, what Michelle Troconis is trying to do is play down the level of love affair or relationship or sexual aspect, all of that stuff. She's trying to play that down. Like I'm just someone who is a mum, and I'm got a daughter, right? She's trying to make it seem very innocuous. Jodi Arias did the same thing by taking out the sexual attractiveness aspect. Then it makes it seem like there's no motive, that there's no I don't really get it kind of thing. You know, it adds doubt.
What date did you discover those license plates?
That was Friday, May 31st, 2019.
I'd like to talk to you now about some of the steps that you took after you seized the license plates. Could you indicate for the jury what you did?
Yes. Sometime after seizing the license plates, I received a telephone call from Detective Sergeant Bisson informing me that some search and seizure warrants had been approved, specifically for the home at 4 Jefferson Crossing and the persons of Mr. Dulos and Ms. Troconis.
So that's quite big. They seized the license plates. If you think about the sort of strict letter of what he's talking about, he says they seized the license plates. As I understand it, they do a study of the license plates. They analyze the license plates. And remember, those license plates have got a lot of tape all over it. And that was probably took quite a long time to do. Maybe that is what was going on late Thursday night when there were thunderstorms going into, early Friday morning. In any event, it goes from license plates analysis to search warrants for Fotis and Michelle Troconis, not just Fotis, also Michelle Troconis. Doesn't that tell you that as far as they were concerned, there was some evidence linking Michelle Troconis to those license plates, to something related possibly to those license plates, if not the license plates themselves?
And so I was instructed to head over to the area for Jefferson Crossing, among other detectives, to meet there and discuss what we were going to do going forward.
You mentioned other detectives also responded. Who responded to 4 Jefferson Crossing?
Detective Fitzsimons, Trooper Dwayne Loprior was also assigned to Western District Major Crime, and Sergeant Al Bisson.
Approximately what time did you arrive at 4 Jefferson Crossing?
I don't recall the actual time, but it was sometime in the late afternoon, early evening.
When you arrived, what did you do?
We met down the road. We parked our vehicles down the road from the property. We met with Sergeant Bisson, and he informed us about the warrants, what the warrants encompassed, and that we were going to go down the street and see if they were home, seize them, and to seize the residence so that we could perform a subsequent search of the home.
How did you approach the house?
I honestly can't recall if we left our cars down the street or if we drove up after. So it would have been either by driving up to the property or on foot, but I can't recall.
Upon reaching the property of 4 Jefferson Crossing, what did you do?
We walked onto the property. One of us knocked on the door. I'm not positive who that was. There was no answer at the house.
After there was no answer, what happened next?
So does anyone know when this was? I'm a little bit unclear. Sometimes search warrants do happen fairly quickly. Was this the same night? Was this May 24th? Or was it the next morning? Or was it a different day? I'm just seem to have missed that.
Sergeant Bisson attempted to contact Mr. Dulos on his cell phone, I believe several times, and Mr. Dulos did not answer Sergeant Bisson's phone call.
Were those calls made in your presence?
Yes, they were.
Since you were not able to make contact with Mr. Dulos, what were you doing?
We were standing on the property.
Okay, I'm going to just go back because I just need to know for myself when this was. Just hear what he says.
The license plates. Could you indicate for the jury what you did?
Yes. Sometime after seizing the license plates, I received a telephone call from Detective Sergeant Bisson informing me that some search and seizure warrants had been approved, specifically for the home at 4 Jefferson Crossing and the persons of Mr. Dulos and Ms. Troconis. And so I was instructed to head over to the area of 4 Jefferson Crossing, among other detectives, to meet there and discuss what we were going to do going forward.
So it seems like he says sometime later. That's so for the best indication of the time, as far as I can understand.
You mentioned other detectives also responded. Who responded to 4 Jefferson Crossing?
Detective Fitzsimons, Trooper Dwayne Loprior was also assigned to Western District Major Crime, and Sergeant Al Bisson.
Approximately what time did you arrive at 4 Jefferson Crossing?
I don't recall the actual time, but it was sometime in the late afternoon, early evening.
So late afternoon, early evening, after they'd seized the license plate, so definitely not Friday. Could it have been Saturday?
When you arrived, what did you?
Okay. So what's quite interesting is even almost a week after all of this, the aftermath to the crime is still taking place. So, for example, the replacement of the vehicle seats. Quite interesting. Thanks for providing us with that, Stephanie.
You do.
We met down the road. We parked our vehicles down the road from the property. We met with Sergeant Bisson, and he informed us about the warrants, what the warrants encompassed, and that we were going to go down the street and see if they were home, seize them, and to seize the residence so that we could perform a subsequent search of the home.
How did you approach the house?
I honestly can't recall if we left our car trying to sell on that road, so we were doing a canvass of the area. While we were down there, we noticed that the vehicle was parked on that property.
So were you familiar with the fact that this vehicle was owned by Ford Group?
Yes. So at the onset of this case, the supervisor and the case officer had identified multiple people who were associated with Ford Group, to include vehicles, and that happened to be one of the vehicles that was registered to the Ford Group.
As the vehicle was traveling slowly, were you able to see the operator?
I was able to make out that it was a white male with a crew-style haircut.
Based on how the operator appeared to you, did you believe that it might be Mr. Dulos?
I did.
Why?
So I was informed of what Mr. Dulos looked like earlier in the week. And it was a, middle-aged white male, average build and height, and specifically that he had a crew cut style haircut.
Where did the white Jeep Cherokee travel?
So it continued down the street. It didn't stop at the house. The operator wouldn't really look at us. He just kept driving down the road past the house. And at some point we lost sight of it. And shortly thereafter, it appeared to have turned around because it was now coming back toward us.
I can't remember if I asked you this, but Jefferson Crossing is not a through street. Is that correct?
No, it's a private road with that ends in a cul-de-sac.
In other words, there's one entrance, one exit.
Correct.
When you regained sight of the white Cherokee, what direction was it traveling now?
Outbound, so back toward the main road to exit the neighborhood.
As you observed the white Jeep Cherokee heading outbound, what did you do next?
Based on the fact I knew that we had a search warrant for the person of Mr. Dulos, and that vehicle was believed to be registered to his company, and the individual driving it appeared to match his description as it was known to me. I walked out into the street along with Detective Fitzsimons, and I signaled for the operator to stop his vehicle and to pull over.
Where did the operator pull over?
So, question, do you think the operator was Fotis Dulos? So they've got a warrant for Fotis Dulos. They're seeing a white Jeep Cherokee go past them, makes kind of a U-turn and then comes back the same way. That's already pretty suspicious. He's saying the person behind the vehicle looked like Fotis Dulos, had a similar appearance. Do you think it was Fotis Dulos? Anyone? Anyone wanna try answer that question? Do you think it was Fotis that was stopped in the Jeep?
Over.
He stopped right in the middle of the street.
Were you now able to see the operator more clearly?
Yes, I was.
Was the operator Mr. Dulos?
No, he was not.
Okay, so who do you think the operator was? And you remember that Michelle cut Fotis's hair unusually, uncharacteristically before the crime was committed. No, it's not. There's a male in the vehicle, so it's Michelle's vehicle. There's a male in the vehicle, and it's not Fotis. Who do you think it is? Come on, guys. That's. I agree with that. Yeah, that's the answer. That's the answer. Pavel. Right? That's the guy who was in Michelle's vehicle.
Did you ask the operator to identify themselves?
Yes, I did.
How did the operator identify themselves?
I can't recall if he provided a driver's license or not. I have to take a peek at my report for that. But we did identify him as Mr. Pavel Gumienny, who was the project manager for the foregroup. So he was an employee of Mr. Dulos's.
That's right.
And was Mr. Gumienny still in the Cherokee at this point?
Yes, he was.
Did you have a discussion with him about what he was doing?
I did.
Can you describe that
Yes, he
discussion for the jury?
Yes, so I asked Mr. Gumienny where he was coming from, and he had indicated to me that he was coming from the property down in New Canaan that they were working on. So yeah, he said he was coming back from New Canaan.
Describe Mr. Gumienny's demeanor for the jury.
He appeared to me to be very nervous. I noticed that his breathing rate was elevated. He was breathing at a higher rate than you would expect someone to be, just, driving in a car. I also observed the carotid artery in his neck was pulsating, indicating that his heartbeat was beating pretty fast.
Was anyone else from the state police in the immediate area as you're having this interaction with Mr. Gumienny?
Yes, Detective Fitzsimons.
Based on Mr. Gumienny's demeanor, what did you do?
I asked Mr. Gumienny if he had anything illegal in the vehicle that I should be made aware of. He related to me that he did not, and then I was free to search the car if I wanted to.
At some point, was he asked to step out of the vehicle?
Yes, he was.
Why?
Based on his appearance in terms of his rapid breathing, the elevated heart rate, and the fact that he gave me consent to search the car, at that point, I was going to remove him to further investigate So for officer safety purposes, my intent would be to pat him down to continue our dialogue further, and just kind of remove him from the vehicle to ensure that he doesn't have any weapons on him or anything that could harm myself or the other detectives who were with me at the time.
So if you just kind of take a step back and you say, okay, what's going on here? This is about a week later. Surely the whole thing of using his vehicle is over. And, surely the whole thing of, that whole, someone called it musical vehicles is over. And so, you have the investigation kind of gaining a little bit of momentum. And so who happens to stray into the investigation but Pavel Gumienny driving the Jeep Cherokee, right? And the same thought that you're having is probably the thought that the law enforcement had as well, which is this guy looks suspicious. This seems suspicious. And don't you think that that was done perhaps by design? That was perhaps part of somebody else's plan? That Gumienny had been selected as a kind of fall guy all along, because his vehicle is very much part of the fabric of this case.
Patting him down, what did you notice?
I noticed that his shirt was soaked in sweat.
Did you ask Mr. Gumienny about the sweat?
I did. So as I stated earlier, Mr. Gumienny had indicated to me that he was coming up from the New Canaan area. Based on what I knew about the travel distance, that was at a minimum of an hour to 2 hours of drive time, depending on the traffic. And I had indicated to Mr. Gumienny that I thought it's suspicious that his shirt was soaked in sweat, as it was, due to the fact that he just told me he drove up from New Canaan, presumably inside of an air-conditioned vehicle. I didn't feel that his shirt would be so sweaty if he was in a car for that long in the air conditioning.
How did he respond?
He then elaborated further on his comings and goings and stated that after coming from New Canaan, he stopped down the road at a property also owned by Mr. Dulos, number 585 Deercliff. And he had indicated to me that he was removing vehicle seats from a Porsche that belonged to Fotis so that he could put them into his own truck.
And did you subsequently learn what Mr. Gumienny's truck was?
After that, yes, we learned that he owned, a 2001 Toyota Tacoma pickup truck, color red.
Did you ever search the Cherokee?
No. So again, after he provided that he had been down at 585 Deercliff Road to remove vehicle seats from the Porsche, he then stated that because it was Mr. Dulos's vehicle, he did not feel comfortable consenting to a search, so he revoked consent at that point.
After he revoked consent, did you look inside the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
And just to be clear, when I say you looked inside the vehicle, you didn't enter the vehicle.
No, I looked through the windows.
And when you looked through the windows, can you tell the jury what you saw?
Yes, so I noticed that there were a bunch of paper towels in the utility area, so we're talking like the back of the Jeep. Also, it appeared to be some hand tools, and I noticed that there were the seats that appeared to be vehicle seats that were lying on their side, also in the back of the car.
Was the Cherokee or any of its contents taken by you or any other state police that day in your presence?
Not that day, no.
Directing your attention now back to Mr. Dulos and the defendant, you indicated that Sergeant Bisson was not able to reach Mr. Dulos via telephone. Do you recall that?
That is correct.
Did Sergeant Bisson make a request of Mr. Gumienny?
Yes, he did.
What was that request?
Sergeant Bisson asked Mr. Gumienny if he could call his boss to notify him that we wanted to speak to him and that we had search warrants for him and Mr. Troconis.
And did Mr. Gumienny make that phone call in your presence?
Yes, he did.
Incidentally, had you become aware that Mr. Dulos had a second cellular phone?
Yes.
And when did you become aware of that?
So at some point during that week, it was relayed to me by the case officer that they were aware of a second phone point during that and that they had applied for a search warrant.
And I'm going to object that this is all hearsay and it's outside the scope of this witness's personal knowledge. I'll withdraw the question, Judge.
Mr. Gumienny called Mr. Dulos in your presence, is that correct?
Yes, he did.
And after Mr. Gumienny called Mr. Dulos in your presence, what happened next?
Shortly thereafter, Mr. Dulos and Mr. Troconis showed up to the house. I don't recall specifically if they came with Mr. Troconis's mother and child or if they came later, but I know for sure at least Mr. Dulos and Mr. Troconis had appeared in their black Chevy Suburban.
And approximately how long after the phone call would you say this was?
My understanding is they were at a ski pond in Avon. So I don't know the specific time, but it was pretty consistent with them probably leaving right away and coming right back to the house.
Do you recall what vehicle Mr. Dulos arrived in?
It was a black Chevy Suburban.
When Mr. Dulos, the defendant's mother and daughter arrived, did you greet them?
Yes,
Where did you greet them?
right in the driveway as soon as they came back.
And did Sergeant Bisson also greet them?
Yes.
Based on the information that you had regarding 4 Jefferson Crossing, did you or anyone else from the state police inform Mr. Dulos, the defendant's mother and daughter, that they would not be allowed back in the home?
Since we're doing our own audio-visual stuff today, I'm going to work a little bit from my desk and then talk up there when I have some questions. So I just wanted to show you the clip that was just shown to you. Each time that the camera activated, it was between 45 minutes to an hour at a time, right?
I believe that to be accurate, but I don't want to commit because I just don't remember.
You would at least admit that this 12-second or 19-second clip is part of a much longer clip that begins when it's still dark out, right?
I do remember it being dark, beginning to watch the video, yes.
And there are other lengthy videos you watched during the night where it was also dark out, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so while that's going on, I want to just address the poll. There are 200 people in chat right now, and let's see how many votes there are. 24 votes. Make sure you vote in the poll if you haven't already. How long did Michelle Troconis stay with Fotis after the murder, after the 24th of May? So at the moment, about a quarter of you say a few days, about a third of you are saying 1 month, and a third of you are saying they never broke up. It's fairly even, Stevens. I guess some of you are guessing. Let's see if we can get to 100 votes, and I'll give you guys the answer. How long did Michelle stay with Fotis after the murder? Now, think about that. Do you think that's material in terms of someone who's conspired to commit murder? Do you think the length of time is going to factor into that? Again, let's go through it. Come on, guys, please vote if you haven't. There are only 35 votes, and I think there are 218 in chat. So please, please check out the poll. Now it's a few days, 16%, 1 month, 24%. Almost half of you are saying they never broke up. We're now at 40 votes. Come on, guys. We need a lot more votes than this. $43 votes, 44 votes, 45, 46, 40. 48. So most of you say they never broke up. So let me, okay, we're at 57 votes already. I'm trying to get just to 100. Come on, guys. If you've joined us, there are 220 people in chat right now. Please vote if you haven't. That's true. That's true. Let's see where we are now. 62 votes. Come on, guys. Let's try and get to 100. 39% say they never broke up. 5 months and 1 month are even Stevens. And then a couple of you say a few days. 16% say a few days. They never broke up is still streaking ahead. Let's see if we can get to 70 votes. Come on.
Correct?
That's correct.
And the property itself is surrounded by trees, right? That is 80 Mountain Spring, right?
Yes.
You've been on that property, right?
Yes, I have.
And there are other houses, they're not shown in this image, but there are other houses behind on each side of that house there?
It looks like where your mouse pointer is, there's something. I don't remember though what specifically is around it. I do know there's a large open field and there was a heavily wooded area surrounding the property.
Right, there's fields.
Okay, let's see how many votes we're at. We're at 75 votes. Do you guys want me to let you know what the answer is? So 44%, almost half of you say they never broke up. 45% now. The least votes is a few days, 17%. Now, remember in the Chris Watts case, Nicole Kissinger broke up with Chris Watts within 1 or 2 days. It was all over within 1 or 2 days. Do you think it's the same here? Do you think it's the same situation here? We're approaching 80 votes now. Okay, so let me put you guys out of your misery. The answer isn't 1 month. It's not 1 month, right? The answer isn't a few days, right? And the answer is also not that they never broke up. So let's deal with it one at a time. They did break up because at the time Fotis took his own life, he was in another relationship with someone called Anna Curry, right? He was already in another relationship when he died with someone called Anna Curry. And if you imagine that Michelle Troconis was a lot like Nicole Kissinger, wasn't involved in the crime directly, wasn't involved in the cover-up directly, then you would imagine the moment you hear that your partner is being accused of something like that, you're going to drop them like a hot potato, right? And that is what Nicole Kissinger did. That is not what Michelle Troconis did. She didn't do it after a few days. She didn't do it after a few weeks. She didn't do it after a month. Their relationship ended after 5 months. 5 months. So I hope you guys have learned a little bit through, being with me on this. You've got confirmation of that right here. Someone was saying they don't find Michelle Troconis very attractive. I think she looks pretty attractive over here. But there you have it, published October 26, 2019. Michelle Troconis splits from Fotis Dulos, and that is 5 months later. So you take May 2024, June, July, August, September, October, that's 5 months, right? Can you see her hair's a little bit darker there? She does look quite attractive in that image. So that's part of the answer. Here's another something else. Fotis died in January 2020. So he was obviously in a relationship with someone else, at least until for about 3 months. I just want to see if they mention Anna Curry here. Anyway, let's go back to the trial coverage in the meantime.
Report about this encounter, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
So let me just ask you a couple of questions as I understand it. So you're somewhere in the front yard when the team is there to at least execute the search warrant at the house and on the individuals, correct?
Yes.
And that's the day you had seized Fotis Dulos' phone, right?
Yes, sir.
And later drove up to Litchfield, right?
Yes.
To bring that phone.
Correct.
So
Well,
what-
no, I'm sorry. So I did not have the phone yet. The phone was seized at Troop L, Mr. Dulos' phone. I had the license plates with me.
Ah, okay. But you were bringing the license plates up to Litchfield. That was but that came later, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're in the front and you see a
So I hope you guys don't mind while he's arguing about that aspect. We're going to look at just some information about the woman who replaced Michelle Troconis, and her name is Anna Curry, right? And she's a North Carolina resident. She was described in reports as Fotis' new girlfriend. She fronted the money and has filed a lawsuit against a bond company to have it returned. So just have a look at this. It says here, revealed Fotis Dulos' girlfriend, 42, a little bit younger than Michelle, fronted nearly $150,000 in cash for his bond, right? She's a wealth manager who worked with the suspected wife killer and was seen leaving his house the morning that he died. So she was at his house when he died, right? I'm just going to look at when they say they met each other. But you can see that Fotis has a type. He seems to like intelligent, long-haired brunettes, doesn't he? Just want to see if they say when they started going out. A neighbor told Daily Mail a young woman has been at Fotis' house several times. They've been out jogging together. She's been driving one of his cars. Curry lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. She works in financial services. She worked at Capgemini, a consulting firm in New York. Dulos overlapped with her time at the company when he was a manager at Capgemini for 7 years. So it's an old flame from where they previously worked together. Curry went on to take on other senior positions. She graduated magna cum laude at Duke University. Remember, he went to Brown. So let's see if they say when this happened. Curry agreed to pay the balance of just over $272,000 for that was in terms of Dulos' $6 million bond, looks like. Just a couple of other articles on the same thing. Can't actually access that one. There you have it. Fotis had a type, brainy, pretty brunettes. And you can see he's not a bad-looking guy, right? So it talks about a glamorous new girlfriend. Just trying to see when she entered the picture. Doesn't really say. Yeah, we've had a look at that. Okay.
I, with my left hand, just signaled for the operator to stop. I stood in the middle of the road, and he stopped.
All right, so I know it's been a while since you were probably a patrol officer, but that's a signal to put your hand up. It's to stop someone. You hold your hand palm up as a sign to stop a vehicle, correct?
I think a reasonable person would make that inference, yes, sir.
Okay, and you did that.
So someone said, I voted just a few days. Now, don't you think that if she was part of a conspiracy to commit murder, that she would likely be in a relationship with him after Jennifer's death and disappearance and investigation? Doesn't it make sense that if she was very much part of a conspiracy, that the relationship wouldn't really be affected for some period of time, right? So have a look at the voting. 42% say they never broke up. We are at about 100 votes now. That is not true. Someone else was in part of the was having a relationship with Fotis at some point. I haven't been able to ascertain when. I see the second least voting percentage, 18%, is actually the right answer, 5 months. Anyway, we'll see how that poll evolves. I wonder how long Shunon is still going to do this.
Tools, right?
That's accurate.
You asked him specifically where he was coming from, right?
I did.
And he told you was coming up from New Canaan.
So that is also a good point. If she believed that he was innocent and wasn't involved, and she really loved him, you could argue that could be why she stayed with him. Do you think she believed he was innocent if she helped manufacture a deliberately misleading alibi? Like, it's one thing if you believe someone's innocent and you think about where was I during a particular period, but would you need to do that and leave certain things out?
What are you doing here and where you're coming from, right?
That's accurate.
You asked him to step out, right?
Yes.
You testified just now that you patted him down, right?
Yes, sir.
You knew it wasn't Fotis Dulos at this point, though, right?
Yes, sir. I knew.
And you noticed that I think you used the term that he was, I don't know if you used the word soaking wet, but his clothing was quite wet.
Yes, sir. He was perspiring and his shirt, was wet to the touch.
I think you actually, in your report, didn't you use the word soaking wet?
I believe that's how I referred to it in my report, yes.
When you asked him, after he told you that he had just driven up from New Canaan, you questioned him about that because of how wet and sweaty he appeared, right?
Yes, sir.
And he was inside an air-conditioned vehicle, right? According to your report, too.
Yes.
And after you asked him that is when the first time he told you that he had actually been at a 585 Deercliff Road removing seats from a car, right?
Yes, that's accurate.
And he told you he did that so he could put them in his truck, right?
Correct.
He didn't tell you that he was doing that at the instruction of Mr. Dulos at that point, did he?
He did not.
He just said, I'm taking these seats out of the, I don't know if he mentioned that it was a Porsche, but he was taking it. Oh, he did say to you it was his Porsche, the Porsche, right?
That's correct.
And he was going to put him in his own truck, right? You asked him if you could search the car, right?
Yes.
And he said no.
Well, actually, let me rewind that. I didn't ask him if I could search it. When I asked him if there was anything illegal in the car, he offered that I was free to search it if I wanted to.
Okay.
So he actually elicited consent and said, well, not elicited, but offered consent to search the car.
However, he changed his mind, didn't he?
He did.
He said he didn't feel comfortable consenting to your searching. Isn't that true?
Yes, he made a reference that it was his boss's vehicle and he wasn't comfortable with us searching it because it wasn't his.
So he withdrew the verbal consent he had previously given.
Yes, sir, he did.
But you were allowed to look through these windows of the vehicle, right?
It would be in plain view. So yes, I did make it a point to look through to see what I could see inside.
Yeah, it's perfectly okay. If a person's driving a vehicle and you can look through the window, you're allowed to do that, right?
Yes, sir.
Sure. And what you saw in the back of the
Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about was the idea that Michelle Troconis is a daddy's girl. Now, the only reason why that even came up, like I didn't decide that. It wasn't my idea. I didn't look at her and make some kind of judgment. I was actually working on a video today on Brian Laundrie, which no one is interested in watching. Sorry about that. Just a little bit of sarcasm there. But Brian Laundrie really comes across as a mama's boy. And mama's boys are used to being coddled. And any coddled person doesn't know how to deal with the real world because they're coddled, right? And so can you say the same thing about Michelle Troconis? And that's what I want to kind of share with you guys. Is on the same day that I was covering Brian Laundrie, this was a headline that I came across. Daddy's girl, Michelle Troconis, shows up to court arm in arm with her father. And it just kind of made me think, in a strange way, was Jennifer daddy's girl? And I do think that her father did look out for her. Her father did give Fotis a lot of support because he loved his daughter, right? And so was this, in a weird way, a battle between daddy's girls? And I'm just putting it out there. I mean, I haven't really thought about it that much. But if you think about it, in the same way that I think a mama's boy, if you're a woman, you probably think a mama's boy is a spoiled man, someone who's used to getting his way, someone who can be immature, someone who doesn't know how to deal with a lot of situations, but specifically someone who is spoiled, that they're used to getting whatever they want when things aren't usually as simple or as easy as that. But daddy's girls can be the same way, that they used to also being spoiled. And I'm not saying, you can get someone whose mother loves them and he's not a mama's boy, he's just got a loving mother. We're talking about being coddled. We're talking about an excessive amount of mothering or fathering, right? And so I don't know whether it's true. I'm simply showing you what's in the media, but you do see her father present more than her mother, and you also see them kind of arm in arm, right? And she's not really a murder suspect, but she's the charges against her are quite serious. And if you think about Chris Watts and Scott Peterson, they were both kind of golden child kids who their parents really adored. Scott Peterson especially, but also Chris Watts. I think his mother really loved her son, and as a result, he could do no wrong in her eyes. And so there you have them in arm, and there's a little bit of a video here, I think, where you see them walking up into the court. Let's just play that. Just watch her father. This is Michelle on the left. Her father's definitely quite attentive towards her, not to the other sister. Let's just play it with the sound, see how that goes. I will go to that in a second. Sorry, I've gotten rid of YouTube ads. I haven't gotten rid of these just yet. We'll get there in the end.
Morning. Morning, Claudia. Morning. Morning, doctor. Morning.
And that was her mother walking quite a few feet behind father and daughter.
Hello. Hello.
Be here today or maybe today? Very good. Thank you.
And then
Morning.
there's some speculation who these gentlemen are. They seem a little bit mysterious, wearing dark glasses, even indoors, by the looks of it. Anyway, I thought I would just share that with you guys. So let's see whether where we are in the testimony. Damn, still this guy.
And having a conversation with him, making small talk. So I can't remember if I went in for the cursory search or not. I only remember going in to pack their overnight bags with them. I can't recall if I actually went in for the sweep or not. I think I stayed outside with them.
Okay. Do you recall being in the office at any time?
No.
All right.
Judge, are we finished with this photograph?
Oh, yeah. And although it's on there and it's been offered, I just want to make sure you don't recall being up in the ante office where the extra set of stairs are.
No, I do not.
You do not.
No.
You recall seeing the door to the office being in the alcove right where you were standing near the driveway alcove. the garage out?
Kind of knowing the layout of the property as we stand today, I wasn't aware at the time, but yeah, I believe their office space was above the garage. So if you're facing the house, that would be on the right side.
Okay. You testified about observing Michelle Troconis up at the Litchfield Barracks that evening after they had driven themselves up to Litchfield, right?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you said they were escorted by police, is that right?
My understanding is, yes, there was, the best way I could describe it was a convoy of vehicles, them and theirs, and then the troopers and detectives in their own cars, all kind of just convoying up to the troop.
I won't use the word care, but like a convoy with some in front and some behind the vehicle.
Yes, that's how I remember it.
Okay. And you said that you observed Michelle.
Is it just me, or do you find it a little irritating? Just like, you know, this is actually kind of the prosecution's case that's being led at the moment, right? So you kind of have the prosecution who how can I put it? They feel the evidence, they tell their story, and it just feels so often like that this defense lawyer takes over the whole narrative. I mean, this detective, Sergeant Michael Bouton's barely testified, and look how long this cross-examination is going on for, right? I don't know about you, because I mean, how it's supposed to work is the prosecution field their case, and then there's some cross-examination, and then the defense field their case, and they have their witnesses. So you almost get the feeling, I don't know, I just find it, I don't know if you guys know what I'm saying. I don't really agree with that they seem in control. It just is making this slow-moving case extremely slow-moving. I find it exhausting as well. I'm kind of here because I thought Pavel Gumienny was going to be testifying. So I've got to say, if he's not going to be testifying in the next 15 minutes, then that's going to be the live stream for today. I'm not going to just sit here and deal with this. And you know, I don't know what the jurors feel like. I mean, the jurors can't leave. Anyway, let's go back to what we were talking about, this idea of a daddy's girl, right? And it's a very difficult thing to talk about in a practical way. Compared to what? Compared to who? How do you say it? Whatever. But if you accept it at face value and you say she was a daddy's girl, then that's someone who's used to being spoiled, also used to getting away. And so what happens when a daddy's girl, for all intents and purposes, isn't getting away because of another daddy's girl? Because another daddy's girl wants to get her way regarding her children and her home and whatever. Isn't that something that is almost written in the stars, that is going to end badly? Because the bottom line is, if you're a mama's boy or you're a daddy's girl, you're used to getting your way. So that means it doesn't really matter what the consequences are. It doesn't really mean you pay the price to get what you want. But you are used to getting what you want no matter what. And so what happens in a situation like this, where there's this long drawn out thing, it's reality. Someone is getting a divorce, there are unpleasant aspects to it. Now, how do you get your way in a situation like that? And could that be part of a motive for murder? right? There are, I think, some very present extenuating circumstances, but one wonders whether that aspect is not relevant as well. What do you guys think? Alf, thanks for being with us, and thanks for, I think you gifted a membership. Thanks a lot for that. Joe, it's anticipated to last another 4 weeks. We at trial day 13, so it's something like another 3 to 4 weeks, I'd say. Do you guys agree with me, or do you find it, because I know the audience are mostly female, do you find it a unfair thing to say? Do you think it's an unfair thing to say? Yeah, no, I agree. It is probably going to be 8 weeks at this rate. Irene, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And that's also definitely interesting. I know in Greek families, the sons are treated like little princes as well. Some more than others, but definitely some are. And of course, Photis lost his mother in not a very nice way. Okay, anyway, let's listen to what they're talking about.
He didn't let you, if he didn't consent to getting his phone, giving it to you, it would be months before he got it back. Didn't you tell him that?
I don't recall that specifically, but that sounds accurate. I mean, that would be what would happen.
It was only after that that he then consented, right?
I'd have to listen to the recording, but that sounds like it might be accurate.
Okay. And you said you also seized the Jeep Cherokee at that time, right?
So not at that specific time. We were sent back later, the same day.
Did you have a warrant for the Jeep?
We did not. Not to my knowledge, no.
Did you also take a DNA sample from Mr. Gumienny?
Not at that specific instance. We interviewed Mr. Gumienny again with his attorney, and my partner, Detective Allegro, took a DNA sample from him.
At that time?
Correct. So
You
after.
weren't there for that?
I was.
Oh, you were there?
I watched that. Yeah, that was in the interview room. It was recorded audio, video, and he was in the presence of counsel, Mr. Attorney Urso, and he consented to a buccal swab, which is a DNA sample.
The other thing I was going to ask you about is you also testified that you had gone from, you would watch the video at 77 Mountain, right?
Yes, sir.
And you had also been to Jefferson Crossing, right?
Yes.
So you were somewhat familiar with that area, right?
Yes, at the time.
All right. So I'm going to show you. There's no objection.
No objection.
Exhibit P is no objection to Exhibit P as a full exhibit.
Defense is P as a full exhibit.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, so Joe, if you do go to court, please take some photos of the outside of the court building, whatever you can. That would be very cool. Maybe send them through. We can maybe use up the dead time like this, looking at a couple of photos. When I went to the court in Texas, I took photos of the what do you call it? The police vehicles. The insignias differ from county to county. Obviously, the entrance to the court building. And I obviously went to the crime scene myself. So, not sure if that's as far as you'd like to take it. But anyway, thanks a lot for that, Joe. Thanks for that.
The Mountain Spring Road is that this is the Avon Farmington area, recognized as such.
I don't, honestly, not just by looking at it this way. I'm sorry.
I'll play a little bit more here. I'm gonna ask whether you recognize this to be Eli Road coming up from Mountain Spring Road. And I'm referring now to a diagonal road that starts in the lower right portion up toward, going towards the left portion. Do you recognize that or not yet?
No, sir, I'm sorry, I do not.
Well, I'm just going to play this and I'll stop it at various points.
Can you take it? This part's out. I think you just click on that. Down. Just anywhere. Oh, never mind.
So I'm not sure if you're following. You can actually hear the voice of the assistant, and she's trying to get the full screen. I think she needs to hit that arrow over there. But this seems to be drone footage, and I don't know whether he wants to take the initiative and show other red pickups. I'm not quite sure what this is about.
Again, in the center there, that's clearly shows Port Jefferson Crossing, right?
I believe so, yes.
And you see the Yukon Health Center and Hospital up in the distance there at the top.
That looks to be accurate. I believe that's on Route 4 or
Now,
somewhere in the
if you
vicinity.
look at the road that's traveling in this image, recognize that now to be Eli Road, heading down towards Mountain Spring.
Yes.
Okay. So this would be the direction of travel from Jefferson Crossing down Eli Road towards Mountain Spring, correct?
Yes. I believe so, yes.
And if
I
we
think you have to
follow,
cross Old Mountain Road, I think, before you get to Mountain Spring. Is that accurate?
say that
I
again.
think you have to cross Old Mountain Road to get to Mountain
Well, I
Spring.
think we're gonna get there in a minute.
Quite a few big houses. Look at that in this area.
I'm gonna pause this for a second here. You see where there's an intersection here between, I'm pausing it at 2 minutes and 28 seconds. You see where there's a T intersection here, where Eli Road crosses another street here?
Yes, yeah, I believe that's Old Mountain Road.
That's Old Mountain Road in Farmington, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if we go in this direction, which we'll see in a second, if you keep staying on Old Mountain Road, you know that that eventually comes out into the town of Avon, right?
I believe it does.
And it eventually goes into Route 10, right?
Yes, I think so.
And that connects with Route 44, right?
I believe you're right on that, yeah.
Okay, so I'll play it again now. And there's a vehicle passing on there. You see that vehicle that's you see in the middle there that's driving?
It looks like a yellow pickup truck, yes.
Yes, that vehicle would be on Old Mountain Road, right?
That's accurate.
So let me ask you, what is the defense actually achieving right now? Like what are they proving? What are they disproving? What are they doing? I honestly don't know. They're helping us navigate the area. Thanks a lot. But what are the defense doing?
Mountain Spring Road, correct?
Appears to be.
And the double yellow line means it's a main road that connects between main roads, right?
Typically, it's a road where the speed limit's a little higher. Yes.
The drone is following Mountain Spring Road down from Jefferson Crossing, correct?
Appears to be, yes.
Now, the house that's coming up in the distance now to the left, so that we're oriented correctly, that is 80 Mountain Spring on the left, and that's 77 on the right that we see now, right? If I stop the... Am I correct about that?
Yes, that appears to be correct.
And here is the driveway that of 77 that goes out one way and comes in the other way here somewhere.
Correct.
And here is the property itself, correct?
80 Mountain Spring, yes, sir.
80 Mountain Spring from the, and the driveway is on the other side of this big, correct?
Yes, it's on the opposite side of the house. The driveway wraps around from the left side and then in front of the house and back out to the street.
And if we continue down Mountain Spring Road, eventually we will come to the, you said Route 4?
Yes.
Almost right in downtown, or downtown, the center of farming, correct?
Yes, sir.
The little commercial area farming.
Yeah, as businesses, gas stations, et cetera.
All right. And again, that's 80 on the left and 77 on the right, correct?
Yes.
And as the camera pans up going south, you see that there's a golf course and there's some open fields and a lot of trees there, correct?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
And you also see the other mountains in the distance, correct?
Yes.
And as the camera now is panning to...
So he's spoken about a hospital, he's spoken about a golf course, he's spoken about lines in the road. I don't quite understand why the judge hasn't said anything, to be honest. Like, is this relevant? Where's this going? I don't know. I just find it really strange.
That looks accurate.
And that's the Yukon Health Center closer, right?
Off in the distance there, yes, on the right side, upper right portion of the screen.
It's all the medical facilities there, correct?
Yeah, the
It's
medical examiner's office is there as well, I believe.
What is there?
The medical examiner's office?
Yes, it's probably one of these buildings right around here, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the, this is all heavily wooded area, correct?
Yes.
And, oh, I'm gonna stop right there. Up here, that's the city of Hartford right there, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
It's all the downtown buildings, right?
Yes.
So this whole drone video is 8 minutes long. I'm just not sure why he couldn't have discussed this in his own, with his own witness. I just don't quite understand if he's trying to orientate people according to his own story. Anyway.
We're looking at the city of Hartford, we're looking east, right?
Yes, yeah, from where I assume it's a drone, where the drone is, it appears to be the city's out toward the east, yes.
And once again, we see Eli Road in the foreground of the lower part of this video.
I believe so, yes.
Does this help orient you to the fact that
Okay, so I want to look at just some of the news from yesterday. Unfortunately, a lot of this is behind a paywall. I'm subscribed to so many news publications, but there's always one that you're not subscribed to. Anyway, the one that I really want to look at is this one, but that one's behind a paywall. The lead detective finishes his case, and then another juror was basically out. And I'd be interested to know what that was all about. What emergency justified a juror just kind of skedaddling? Any thoughts on that? Like what family emergency or business emergency could justify abandoning jury duty? This may give us some information. The clerk received a message from a juror who said that they had an emergency and had to leave the country. As a result, the juror was replaced by an alternate. And we don't have any more information than that. They had to leave the country. I mean, what is that emergency? Then former Connecticut State Police Detective John Kimball returned to the stand for a third day to continue discussing two videos showing Troconis' interviews. What was interesting in the first part of the session was the judge saying that he noticed that there was deception, and where there wasn't deception, that what you were saying was not helpful. Or let me put it this way. The judge highlighted that when her lawyer left the room and she left the room, the officers that remained behind seemed to be saying that she was, I'm trying to think exactly how they put it. That she wasn't, they could tell that she wasn't being completely honest. Anyway, it goes, let's have a look at this article. It says, in her second interview, Troconis recanted some of the information she initially told police. However, she remained adamant that she didn't know what had happened to the New Canaan mother of 5. This is a quote from him. We believe, given the totality of their relationship, she would know more information than she was providing us. Schoenhorn is basically saying here that the former state's attorney twice said that he thought Troconis didn't know anything. Well, I mean, I don't know if she knew a lot about what happened that morning. Like, I don't think she would know those details. I don't know if I would say it as she didn't know anything. Anyway, where are we now with this still going on? Do you think we missed anything, guys? Should we go back because we may have missed something?
I just want to be clear, you're familiar a little bit with the power lines, right? And I'm just going to reorient myself. So this is still for Jefferson Crossing down here in the bottom right.
Now we need to know where the power lines are. It's quite important.
High tension power lines, they don't continue near 80 Mountain Spring Road, do they?
I don't know, honestly.
They come out near the Yukon Health Center, don't they?
I don't know.
So I really don't know whether this is a case of, there's a saying, give someone enough rope and then you know what they do with it. I don't know why the prosecutor's not objecting. I don't know why the judge isn't. I don't know why a juror isn't. I suppose they can't, but yeah, like, what is this all about? I honestly feel like my time is being wasted and I'm conscious of your time being wasted. What are we doing here? Anyway, let's look at some of your questions and comments. Let's have a look at the poll as well. Please vote if you haven't already. How long did Michelle stay with Fotis? 44% say they never broke up. That's not correct. The next most is 1 month. That's also not correct. A couple of you say a few days. Anyway, okay. This is drone footage. D. Patterson you're from Australia, right? Had an appointment. What did I miss? Did we have the murder discussion yet? We spoke a little bit about it at one point. Okay, let's listen.
If the state wants me to play the rest of the extra minute.
I think we've seen enough.
All right. So I just want to be clear after we watch that video. Fort Jefferson Crossing was near the pinnacle of that portion of Avon Mountain, right?
Pierce, yes, so.
It was a very wooded area, correct?
Yes,
There were also a lot of homes with yards and fences and whatnot in that area, correct?
correct.
The only road between Jefferson Crossing and 80 Mountain Spring was Eli Road down to Old Mountain Road, hang a quick right and then turn left and continue straight down to that location, correct?
Yes, sir.
The only other way to get there would be to come up from the area near the Yukon Health Center that we saw and the commercial buildings that were in that part of Farmington, correct?
Yeah, I believe you'd come off of like Talcott Notch Road. And then from that area, maybe?
Well, Talcott Notch, we didn't talk about Talcott Notch, but Talcott Notch and Old Mountain Road, you have to cross both of those roads before you get to Route 4, right?
I believe you do.
And then you come to where the commercial areas are, including the gas stations, right?
Yes,
The medical buildings are down there.
correct.
And then there's an entrance to I-84 in Farmington, right?
Oh, there is.
And if you go the other way on Route 4, eventually you go right into West Hartford where there's a Stop and Shop, right?
I believe so.
And I just have a couple more questions. Did you, when you split up the review of the videos from?
So what do we expect is going to happen next after this? If he carries on for long enough, we'll go up to a lunch break. But I imagine the next witness is Pavel Gumienny, who is, I think, a very important witness here. I would really have liked to have covered that. If he's going to carry on for much longer, we're almost at 2 hours. I think he may just have finished.
After the luncheon recess.
Yes, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will stand in our luncheon recess today until 10 minutes after 2. Please do not discuss the case. Have a good lunch. Well, it's probably a better idea to continue redirect after the luncheon recess.
Yeah. Okay. What do you guys think? Should I stay on? Because there's going to be a redirect after this. So I think we're going to take a little bit of a break. Chelsea, thanks so much for that. Going to drive home now. Okay. Well, have a safe drive home. I know the roads can be quite icy where you are, so drive safely, drive carefully. I'm sorry that we can't keep you company, but I've kind of used up all the content that I had researched, just covering what the defense cross-examination ended up being. So I think we're gonna take a break. I'm not gonna, even if the court resumes. Okay, so I'll do this. When the court resumes, I'll try and be here. But if Pavel Gumienny is not called, then I don't think I'm going to continue coverage. We can review it tomorrow. I've tried to be live, but with this particular case, it's full of hazards. So I'm talking about live when the case is live. And so I may revert to doing a review. So we may do day 13 on day 14 kind of thing. Just because I don't really want to get caught up in this. I actually wanted to take my dog for a walk. And I thought, well, this is quite an important moment in this trial, and got used up the way that it has, and now it's too dark. I'd rather not use up my time in this way. So my poor dog, I will take him for a walk, but it'll be a little bit less than what he's used to, a lot less than what he's used to, put it that way. Yeah, it's just a little bit of a difficult case because of the nature of the case. Also because of, to some extent, the folks who are in the courtroom. So, that's just the way it is. Stephanie says he'll be on the witness stand tomorrow and the day after. So no worries. Okay. It does also look like the testimony that may follow may have something to do with a cell phone, because that seemed to be the last thing he said. He said they seized Fotis' cell phone, and then I think that was where he said McGuinness said that's no more questions. So that definitely is a very important area of the testimony, the cell phone evidence. So anyway, I don't think I am going to stay on. We are at the 2-hour mark, and I think it was fairly interesting given what we had to work with. I want to just thank you guys for the super chats. Maria says if the defense is taking so long, yeah, it might. That's why I think that the judge and the prosecutor need to object a little bit. The cell phone evidence is definitely, these days it's very important in modern court cases. So we'll see where that gets us. Thanks. Well, that's nice to hear, Stephanie. I'm going to have to wake Timmy up. He's actually fast asleep. He's given up on me completely. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, for being here. Can you believe it? We've just gone through almost an entire month of the new year. It's already 1 month gone. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good afternoon. Take care. I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.